All right. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Today, talking about what we're going into. One of the things that we didn't discuss yesterday, and I was kind of waiting until the right time to do it. Well, today is kind of it. What we're going into is section 4.3 and 4.4, and what they're talking about in these sections. Still mortgages, still, the idea of like talking about how to take a loan out for a house. But the one thing we didn't discuss yet was that there's two types of loans you can have. And these are the scary things you need to think about. This also applies to you through student loans. And that's why I want to talk about this. So number one, there is called a fixed rate mortgage. Fixed rate mortgage. So if you're going to go into buying a home, this fixed rate is the best plan for you. But I want to explain why there's a difference. Fixed rate is whatever money you borrowed from the bank. There is a fixed rate to it by percent, and that's what you pay. It's the same payment for whatever term you have, 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, whatever loan you're taking out. Okay, it's fixed rate. So like the example I gave you the other day, it was 4.5% fixed. That was the example I gave you the other day. Now, the other way to do this is called a variable rate. A variable rate mortgage. And this mortgage can change depending on the years that you've spent. So what variable rate can mean, this applies to your student loans if you're going to college, that they can change the rate based on the year. So it's kind of a gamble. It depends on what bank you have, what type of credit you have. What variable rate means is whatever year the president we have, or Congress, or whatever year your governor is for your state, that rate on your mortgage could change, and so your payments change per year or per payment period. Because why this can be risky is that if you have a really good economy, the rates can be really low. They're trying to encourage kids to go to college, and so the rates could be really low on the student loan, they could be really low on the housing, but depending on who your president is, they could jack up the rates, and now you're paying a lot more. Why this can be kind of helpful. Sometimes people will choose to go a variable rate mortgage, where you start with a really high percent interest in the beginning of your payments for your house. And eventually by the end of let's say you went 20-year loan on your home, by the end you have 0% for the last year. So it goes down in chunks. You're paying a lot of interest up front, you'll pay a little bit until the point where those last few years you're not paying any interest. So the bank got the same amount of money that they wanted to, but you paid a lot of money up front, so later in your life you don't have to pay as much for your house. Some people like to do that. It makes sense for them. So this is kind of the variable idea where maybe you chunk it out.
That's the one you did, right?
Okay. Me? No, I did a fixed rate. The reason why is that I looked at how much I wanted to pay, and I don't want to pay like a crazy cost in the beginning. I want it to be pretty even keel. Because I have a steady job, I don't need to worry about flip-flopping jobs. So I just went with a fixed rate. That was the one that I went to. Now the only thing that changes on my mortgage is something we didn't also discuss. That it's called escrow. This is something that you've got to think about. You have property tax. And property tax is one of those things I can get enraged about. Like, it just makes me mad. It applies to everybody. Everyone has to go through it. If you own a home, you have to pay the taxes on the home every single year. You own the home, but you're paying the government to live on that land you own, which enrages me. It should be a one-time fee you pay up front. That's it for the rest of your life, but the federal government thinks that they own the land underneath you, and so you pay on it the rest of your life. It enrages me a little bit. But what escrow is, you can add you can add your property tax into your house payment every year. So every year your house payment can change by a few dollars, because instead of saving up, to give you an idea, my mother lives on a farm north of Ventura. She doesn't have a house payment. She paid off her house years ago, and the idea is she still has to pay property taxes. So every year, I think it's September 29th or something like that, it's the last week of September, she has to pay her property taxes on her place. Her place is like the county assessor on like land out in the country are crazy expensive. Like when you build a house in the country, your property taxes on those properties are super high. So her property tax every year could be up to 10 grand on property tax because she owns a bunch of acres and she has buildings on it. So she has to save up for that. That's a bill she knows she's getting every September. She's getting about a 10 grand bill for her property taxes. Well, here's the problem. When you're paying off a home, you still have like that payment that you're making, that mortgage payment that you're making until you pay it off, right? You have your mortgage that you're paying. So what they'll do for you, and you have the option of doing this, you can add your property taxes in, and the bank will pay it for you. They'll pay your property taxes, they'll take care of all the paperwork for you automatically, and you can just add whatever the property tax is on top of your mortgage. So every year, the bank will take that little extra money that you pay, and this goes to your property tax. So you're paying a little bit extra than what your mortgage was set at. Maybe it was a $600 payment, but now with your property taxes added, maybe it's $750. I chose to do that. The reason why is I'm not very good at saving my money. I've proven that with how many cars I buy. It's stupid. But the idea is that I like the fact that if I pay a little bit extra every month in a year, that the bank will automatically take care of my property tax for me. And if that property tax changes, because every year, depending on the presidency, depending on Congress, depending on the economy, those tax rates can change. Maybe it goes up 10%, maybe it goes down. They automatically adjust it. So the next month they'll jack up my tax, my taxes for my property tax, but it's automatically adjusted in the price. So they'll send me a statement like, hey, your new payment for the next couple months are going to be this now. It's not $650, now it's $663. Okay, fine, it's $13 extra, but it's taking care of my property taxes at the end of the year because the actual tax percent changed. It's not like my mother that she has to prepare for September and go, okay, property taxes went up, I now have to pay 12 grand instead of 10 grand at the end of September. So she's trying to save up for that. Farmers do that all the time. Farmers have to save up their money so at the time tax time comes around, they can either make their tax payments or they can file their taxes so that they don't have to pay anything. Farmers, believe it or not, don't pay any taxes under $1 million. Zero taxes. They can claim zero for independence. So they claim zero on profits made. So their taxes are significantly less. They still pay a lot in property tax and they still pay other things, but they still have to prepare for that. That their taxes aren't withheld like mine are for my mortgage. Question?
So like for the variable rate,
Yes.
couldn't it change for the 20 year? Like couldn't that thing go back up?
Yeah, so like if you choose to have it where it just goes per year, because like this is where it's going variable depending on the year and it's going down. You can have one where you're just going to take that gamble where you where it's a truly variable where it could do this throughout the years of you owning your home. And the reason why people choose to do that is because maybe you just know that there's going to be this long stretch where you're paying hardly any interest on that. Or the spikes are so violent that you know that for a couple of years, like that interest will be really low, and maybe that makes up the difference between this. Because you can see, like this will make up the difference. This will be more than maybe that area is. Some people like take that gamble. Maybe your bank only offers that because they have to pay for that property, so it takes care of it. It's called variable rate. Your student loans will do this. Now, this probably applies more to student loans, and it's something we will go into. It depends on the type of loan you take. You have to fill out your FAFSAs every year when you go to college. That basically tells tells how much money your parents make, how much money you make, or your guardian, I guess. And depending on how much money your parents make, depends on whether you can get a student loan or not, a federal student loan. If your parents make too much money, you can be denied student loans, and you'd have to file for private loans for student loans. So you have to go through a private lender. The colleges will help you get your paperwork for that if you get denied. Like, to give you an idea, my parents didn't make a lot of money, but my dad made just enough as a semi-truck driver that I was denied federal student loans when I went to Iowa State. And that was something that really upset me because, like, they are not paying my student loans. They don't pay them. They told me up front that we're not paying your student loans, you have to pay them yourself. But I have to file on my FAFSA form what my parents make, and I was instantly denied student loans to go to Iowa State. So I'd go to Iowa State, fill out a form for private loans, and the bad part about that is private loans are this. They go up and down per year. It's not like fixed rate, where if you get a federal student loan, like a federal loan, they're fixed. Oh, it's this % per year for the rest of your life. You pay it off. Once it's paid off, you're done. Mine goes up and down per year. But I didn't take out a lot of loans. I took out 2 big loans for I think my sophomore and freshman year, and everything else I was paying for as I was working through college. I was still working, during the summers, but I tried to work a second job during my junior and senior year of college so that I didn't have to take out a private loan for that. But to give you an idea, 4.5 years at Iowa State, that's 60 grand worth of student loans. It was like 64,000 or something like that. That's a lot of student loan. And when you start putting percents on it, it goes up. I was lucky. When you're done with college, you can consolidate all of your student loans. So if I had a bunch of loans through different companies, I can consolidate them. That means I pick a company that I like. Basically, I picked one that I could pay my loans online, so I didn't have to use any checks in the mail. So I picked the one company and said, hey, consolidate all my loans. They called up all the other companies I borrowed money from. They consolidated it all down and put it on top of my bill and said, okay, you're paying us now, this is how much you owe us. Perfect, done. And when you consolidate, I can now change that variable rate student loan into a fixed rate because I went with one company and I'm paying them back. And that saved me a lot of money. Because, just to give you an idea, your student loans, when you guys go to college, the interest rates will be 7 to 9% interest. 7 to 9% interest on a $16,000 a year loan. That's a lot of money. Just doing some math there. Mine, when I was in college, when I consolidated, it was 1.7% interest. 1.7. That's unheard of. You'll never see that number ever again until like the markets crash. Okay. The idea is that it saved me from this violent thing, because if I was still paying them now under yours, I would be suffering the 9%, because I'm not paid off yet, right? They would be doing 9% until I'm paid off, because that's what you guys pay. It changes per year. But since I consolidated it, locked it in at this %, this is how much I'm paying, I know when I'm paid off. I already know the date when I'm paid off, I can see it down the road. I think it's like 2.5 years, something like that. I can see it. It's this date. But these are things you think about. Now, what most people make a mistake on is on mortgages. You can take out a second mortgage on your home. A second mortgage, you take out a secondary loan on top of the loan you took for your house, and you make repairs. You make fixes. You do a remodel. You add something else to the house. It's called a second mortgage. Some people do this when they want to make a business for the first time. They take out a mortgage, a secondary mortgage, a lien against the house, and they take that money, instead of building onto the house, they make a business. Because they know they can pay it back. That's a gamble. Because now, your rates change, depending on the year you took out that loan, and you're adding that money on top, so now your money's bigger, and you got a bigger payment. These are little things you need to think about. Your bankers do a really nice job of talking you through this for the first time. I'm just going to warn you right now, if you take out a secondary mortgage, or you take out a mortgage in the first place, do not take out extra. Okay, because some people are like, oh, I'm pre-approved for a $150,000 mortgage loan. I'm going to take out 150 grand, even though my house only cost 130, so I have 20 grand I can just spend. Whatever you spend that on, you have to pay it back tenfold, because the interest that's on top. So you're not just borrowing 20, you're borrowing whatever that interest collects over time. And that's something that a lot of people don't think, and that's the difference in interest. So here's my idea, and this is something I didn't talk about yesterday. You have a $150,000 loan you're gonna take out of the bank. You're pre-approved like instantly, your job allowed you to do that. I think student teaching and, teaching and then my wife's, I think we could be approved up to that, I think we could have. I didn't do that, that's stupid, I'm not taking out that loan. Because, here's the idea, let's say that my house that I wanted to buy was 125 grand. Let's say that's the house I wanna look at. If you take the difference between these, which is 25 grand difference, this is the number you have to run through that mortgage thing that you're doing. So over 30 years, 25 years, whatever your mortgage that you're taking out in that home, that money that the extra money that you borrowed because you need to pay off a couple bills, grew way more than you should have just paid off the bills. You don't want to ever take out extra money on the mortgage. You want to take just enough that it's just for the house payment. If you need to borrow this much money to pay off some bills, don't take a mortgage, take a simple interest loan. Take a small loan from a bank, that's considered a small loan. You're not paying off a house with it, so it's not a mortgage. So take out a simple interest loan. I want to show you that difference today, because a lot of you have probably never seen this before. Here's that formula I told you the other day. This is the formula we use for mortgages on your housing. If you were to take out extra money on a bank loan, and you were to take out $25,000 extra, here's what you're basically doing. You're taking out that $25,000, you're pumping it through the same rate that you borrowed your home, maybe mine's 4.5% interest, and you're doing it for 30 years. Okay, this is the numbers we were doing yesterday. In the long run, over 30 years, you didn't borrow $25,000, even though on paper it said you did. Over 30 years of interest, this is what you're actually borrowing. 96,192.
Yes.
That's a lot of money. You just borrowed 100 grand to pay off bills. You just borrowed 100 grand to pay off bills that were only about 25 grand. Never do that. To give you an idea, I had a buddy of mine, he bought a home for the first time, good for him, but he took out extra and he's like, I'm gonna go buy a car. What are you thinking? That car that cost you, I think he bought like a $16,000 car or something like that. He just went out and bought it was like an SUV at the time. He borrowed that money on top of his mortgage. The bank didn't even know any better. They just lent him the money because he was already pre-approved for it. They didn't know what he was spending it on. He went out and bought a car. His car cost him like 4 times more money than it should have. He could have went out, for that type of money, could have went out and bought, an Escalade or, some type of Porsche or just some like expensive car. But he bought a $16,000 stupid SUV that went out of date after 2 years. But he's still paying it. He has to pay this car off for 30 years of his life. That is the dumbest loan I've ever heard of. I called him a moron right to his face. Because he was just like, oh, I got extra money. You're a moron. Because you just took a 100 grand loan on a car that's crap. And he didn't see that because he doesn't think of that. He just saw the money was in his bank account. He just saw that he could go spend on whatever he wanted. He didn't think of like over 30 years he's paying 100 grand for a car that's out of date. That was 30 years he has to own that thing because it's not paid off.
So he can't sell it?
Oh, he can sell it. It's just that he's still paying the loan on it though. I mean, he owns the car technically because he gave him the cash for it, but it was just a dumb loan. The difference here, and this is what I want you to see. If you would have just taken out a simple interest loan, because I don't think I've ever went through simple interest with you guys yet, this is a simple interest loan formula. If you need to pay bills or buy a car or do something other than buy a home or a student loan or a credit card, this is the type of loan you take. You put your amount, maybe you need to borrow $25,000 to go, pay off a couple bills in a car. Your rate is, the rate will change. The bank could have a really low percent for you. Maybe you have 3.2% interest, and you're gonna borrow the money for 6 years, not 30. Because on this type of loan, the extra money that's involved, $25,000 times 0.032 times 6 years, That's only $4,800 extra dollars. This is the extra money that he would have been paying for that car if he took out a simple interest loan, not the mortgage loan. In fact, this is what they tell you if you ever get in trouble with a credit card. Like you took out a credit card. I would never do this, by the way. Take out a credit card and you maxed it out. Credit cards are super scary. If you get past the breaking point on a credit card, where a breaking point on a credit card is where the interest is going so fast, because the percents on credit cards are really high, where your minimum payment you're making doesn't exceed how much it's going by. That's why credit cards, they look at your credit score, and they say, oh, hey, you're pre-approved for a credit card for like $3,000. So that's your credit limit. If you max it out at $3,000, the minimum payment that the credit card company says you have to pay may not pay it off. You're just sustaining $3,000 on the credit card the rest of your life. So if you go past $3,000, it builds too fast, and now your $100,000 won't, or your $100 you pay off every month won't pay it off, and the credit card's bills keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger. So they say if you ever get in trouble with a credit card, go to a bank, take out a simple interest loan, and pay off the credit card. Like take out a $10,000 simple interest loan, pay off the credit card instantly, back to zero, and now you're paying the bank one flat fee to pay off the credit cards, because that will pay it off faster than what it would in 30 years. Because your credit card never ends. It's not like a mortgage, where mortgages end after 30 years. Your credit cards go the rest of your life, and whoever else is on your credit card has to pay that off if you die. So, and it goes to your next of kin.
What's your preference on credit cards?
Credit card, if you ever get a credit card, because there's a lot of good ones out there, don't get me wrong, like Capital One has a great card, Chase has a great card like that, Amazon Rewards card, that's a sweet card. You buy things on Amazon, they give you cash back. It's free money, because you're buying stuff on Amazon anyway, right? If you get a credit card, like you legitimately need one, whatever you put on it, you pay it instantly before the end of the month. Like what I have a credit card for, I have one in my whole life, because I like the Amazon card. I buy gas with it, I pay it off at the end of the month, that's it. Nothing else is on the card. It's gas, paid off. Gas, paid off. Instantly, the next day I pay it off. Because I can see the pending charge that's on my credit card statement, I pay that off instantly. The reason why is it builds credit for me, my credit score goes up, and I don't have any extra charges. Whatever I paid for gas, it's instantly. Because at the end of the month, there's zero money on my credit card, right? I don't have any charges, so they don't charge me any extra. The interest doesn't apply. 0%. 0 times whatever that interest on a credit card is still 0. So it's nice. So that's like, if you have a credit card, that's what you use it for. They say if you have a credit card, don't stop using it. That ruins your credit. You're not using it. You have to use it once a month. That's how you build credit. The only reason why I have a credit card is when I went to go get a loan on one of my cars, it was, I think at the time, I was buying a Ford Edge at the time. I went and checked my credit score. My credit score is always good. It wasn't as good as my wife's, and it upset me. And I wondered, how is my wife's credit score better than me? Like, cause I have really good, right? I pay off my bills, I never go to the hospital ever, like I just never there. I pay off my student loans, I pay my cell phone. Like, so my credit score is like as high as can be. But my wife had a better score than me by like 20 points on the credit score. I had like a 770 at the time. She had an 800. And I was like, how do you have a better score than me? Because she has one credit card. I had none at the time. I was like, one credit card. And the dealer goes, yeah, the dealer at the car sale goes, she has a credit card and you don't. And I'm like, how do you know that? And she goes, it's the difference in score on your credit score. She had an 800, you had 770. He can tell instantly, she has one credit card in her name. I'm like, if I get a credit card, will my score go up? And he goes, yeah, depends on how you use it. If you pay it off like I'm telling you, you get a credit card, you pay it off, your credit score goes up. So now I get better interest on my loans. So I went and got the Amazon card through Amazon. I put a charge on there once a month, pay it off. Boom, done. That's perfect. Because now my credit score instantly went up. And since I'm consistently using it, like once a month, my credit score now is like 815, 820, it's almost perfect. So my interest on any loans I take are super crazy, stupid low. Like stupid low. So, because the better your credit score, the better the interest rates you get. I was offered on a brand new Ford, it was a Ford Mustang. About 2 years ago, I was offered 0% interest on a car loan. That's basically, I'm paying the cost of the car and nothing else. That's the best loan I've ever heard of in my whole life. I didn't take them up on it because it was also a $50,000 Mustang. I didn't want to buy a $50,000 Mustang at the time. But that makes a big difference. Buying a brand new car with a low interest sometimes saves me money than buying a used car with a really high interest. So, yeah. But this is something a lot of people don't think of, but yeah, the mortgage. Okay, the rest of the time is yours. You have about 11 minutes, 12 minutes. You can work on homework, which is due tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can ask. What? No, you will not. This is due tomorrow.